Hey there, Ready, Set, Grow family. This is Sarah Wilson, and I am really excited to get to spend a few minutes with you tonight. You guys, just talking a little bit about minding your mind tonight, because this is the place where I have found myself. And you guys, Rita always said sometimes we got to take a checkup from the neck up, right? And so just know that I am always going to be speaking about, just that current place that I'm in, what I'm learning in the present, what the Lord's teaching me. And so I'm always preaching to myself when I am here with you guys. But you know what? I've been doing a lot of purging around the house and just cleaning things out and getting rid of clutter, getting rid of old things that really they don't serve the season that we're in. And in doing that, I found some old affirmations this weekend, and it just really got me thinking about minding my mind and how in some seasons I've done a really great job of that, and in other seasons it has just stunk. Okay, it has just stunk, the minding my mind. And so I knew that's where we just really felt called to spend time today. And so you guys, for me, affirmations, I'm going to show you guys these ones that I found that are literally as old as my Arbonne journey. So I mean, you can tell they're so haggard and like bled through. It's such a beautiful reminder about the journey that I've been on. But you guys, affirmations, are really they're reminding me, right? This one, I found in an old book this weekend, and I'm not sure on which wall it was on, but it says, I attract highly motivated, successful people to my team. And you guys, affirmations are just reminders, like they're telling you how to think, right? Because it's not our default. It was not my default as somebody brand new in this business with no experience, to tell myself and to think this way, that I attract highly motivated, successful people to my team. That was not my default, right? My default was, I suck. I don't know what I'm doing. How do I do this? Nobody's going to want to follow me, right? And so you guys, affirmations tell you how to think. Because you guys, here's the deal too. Like when I looked back over what these actually say, what's awesome about an affirmation is that what they really are, I didn't write affirmations about the things that I was really already awesome at, right? I wrote affirmations for the things that I was struggling with, the things that were lies, the things that were fears, but I turned them into truth, right? And I turned them into, to promise and to hope. It was like a way of speaking what's not as though it were. And so you guys, there's a beautiful quote by Joan of Arc that says, battles are won or lost in the mind first. And it is so very true. And I'm not sure how many of you have had the chance, hopefully most of you, to read John O'Leary's book on fire. But man, that book is something else. But when he was just a kiddo, 8 or 9 years old, he was burned on 100% of his body, and he was not expected to live. And his story, every part of it is just so incredibly powerful. But from the very beginning, when this little boy, he's not expected to live, he's literally one bandage from head to toe. And it's in those first really crucial, critical hours. And he asked his mom, am I going to die? And his mom looked at him, and God love her, she said, do you want to live? Do you want to live? And you guys, that, whoo! I mean, as a mom, I can't even imagine what kind of strength it took for her to say that to her precious little boy, wrapped up and in that position. But you guys, she knew that it was John's choice, right? She knew that at 8 or 9 years old, that was really going to be up to him. That whether or not he was going to stay in this pit or he was going to climb out was up to him. And so, John calls those in his book inflection points. And I think that's the first one in the book. I don't have it here with me, but it was, are you going to be a victim or a victor? And you guys, I know we've got a lot of people in this group. And so some of us have been here a good long while, right? Some of us have been here months and years. And then some of us are really fairly new to the Arbonne story. And so newbies, as I am really just laying this out tonight about these seasons that are a little bit more of a struggle sometimes, that I want you to know that even though you may not have even butted up next to your first inflection point yet, that there will probably be a day that it does come. And so file this away if you're brand new and you haven't hit this inflection point yet, to where you find yourself face to face with a challenge, with an obstacle, with a pit, with a valley. And we've got to determine, am I going to come up out of this thing? And so for those of you that have been here a while though, and you have, I hope that there is some encouragement in this for you. But you guys, in the midst of our present circumstances, right? Things that are less than ideal and less than we hoped for, and they don't look anything like what we expected. It's easy to forget, right? It's easy to forget the past faithfulness and the future promise, right? It's like we're just in this right now, and this is all I see, right? And it's hard, but we can understand that because the evidence, like what I see right now, my present circumstance and position, it's in complete opposition to the promise, right? To what I thought I was getting, what I really feel like I was called to, and what was waiting for me here. And so you guys, it's easy to get caught up in, when we're in that place, it's easy to get caught up in our feelings and in our fears and in our frustrations. And so you guys, I want you to know that we can't forget, right? Don't forget in the dark what God showed you in the light, okay? It is so easy for us to get in that place and to be so overwhelmed in the pit that we forget, right? We forget what we knew when we started, right? We forget what's already been spoken over us and promised for us in the journey. And so you guys, what I have really just been spending time in, and again, coming from my personal place here, is that when I forget those things, I find myself in the pit, right? So I forget and I get the pit. Forget pit. Okay, got it? Forget pit. But when I remember, it's when I remember that I become a contender. All right, and I want to spend some time in that for just a minute. But you guys, how much or how many of those feelings, the fear, the frustrations, whether that's in life or in your Arbonne business, it could be in your business, could be in your marriage, could be in your parenting, could be in other relationships, other ventures that you've got your hands in, circles that you run in. But you guys, how much of those feelings and fears and frustrations come because we've gotten off course, right? That's how I feel when I get off course, right? I get frustrated. I get a little scared. And you guys, it's because I've forgotten. I'm off course because somewhere along the way, we forget, right? We forget who we are. We forget whose we are. We forget why we said yes. We forget, you guys. We forget who called us out into this crazy unknown thing called Arbonne, right? Out of our comfort zone. We forget why we started. We forget that it's not about us. And you guys, forgetting will always get us in trouble. Forgetting will always get us in trouble every single time. And for me, it's like face down in the pit, kind of forget, right? So you guys, I thought about today a question that I was asked as a brand new consultant. And it was, are you in control of your life, or do you feel like your life is controlling you? And I really said in that today, and I'll hopefully I'll try to backtrack that and make it make sense to you. But you guys, our thoughts create our words lead to our actions become habits, and our habits become life, right? And so there's a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life by Wayne Dyer, and some of you have probably read it. But what came to me today was a little bit of a kind of a revision of that question of, are you controlling your life or is life controlling you, right? And today it came to me like this: are you in control of your thoughts, or are your thoughts controlling you? So you guys, I did a little digging because I was just super curious, because I know my own brain, and I know most of us that are going to watch this are women. And I got to think, surely y'all, do we ever turn this thing off, right? And so I did a little digging, and what I found, you guys, was that it was a recent study. It was in about 2012. It was predicted through quite a measure of analysis that the human brain processes 70,000 thoughts per day, which is about 3,000 an hour, 50 a minute, which is just about 1 per second. 1 thought per second. You guys, is it any wonder that we're flat out exhausted? That's a whole lot of thinking. It's a whole lot of thinking. And y'all, when we're in the pit, right, when we're in a valley season, many of those thoughts turn our focus inward, right? They turn them inward towards that present struggle, that present obstacle, our present circumstance. And y'all, for me, I have found that the quickest way out of that pit in life, that pit in my business, is to remember, right? The quickest way out of my party, right? My party in the pit, is to remember. It's to remember. When I remember, you guys, I make myself a contender, right? I'm back in the fight when I remember. So you guys, the thing to know is that in the pit, there is always going to be some contending. There's always going to be some contending in the pit. You guys, contend means, I looked this up and I loved the power in this definition, so we're going to break it down just a little bit. But contend, it means to struggle in opposition, to contend with the enemy for control of the port. I thought that was such an interesting definition. To contend with the enemy for control of the port. You guys, in the valleys and in the pits and in the closet floors that we sometimes find ourselves curled up in the fetal position in life and in business, you guys, we will wrestle. We will wrestle with the enemy for control of the port. And you guys, a port is a place, right? We kind of know how that's typically used in definitions, right? It's a place where ships come in and out, right? So it's like a city or a town, like, on the edge of land and water where things are coming in and coming out. And so, you guys, it's a place where things load and unload. That's what a port is, okay? And so, you guys, the port that the enemy wants control over is your mind, right? It's your mind. He wants to unload 70,000 thoughts, lies per day into your mainframe, right? Into my mainframe. Like, busy dude, right? Because our enemy knows that all he has to do is get us to believe, right? To accept that whatever's coming in is truth. And you guys, when we accept those things as truth, we just stay in the pit. We just stay in the pit. But you guys, to remember makes us a contender, and it puts us back in the game and back on offense. And I love that our former president, and for those of you that did not get the joy to know her, you need to YouTube some Marita Davenport. But I do love that her heartbeat lives on in so many of us. But you guys, what Rita said, that's right, some stinking thinking. What Rita said was what you think about, you bring about, right? What you think about, you bring about. And so you guys, if we have 70,000 opportunities a day to bring about something, we want to bring about something good, right? And so you guys, instead of defaulting to that subtle, constant drip of lies, what if we chose to remember, right? To remember the past faithfulness. Some of the things that I ask myself, right, so I can get up out of the pit, start climbing up the rope, is what has God done for me already, right? What have I already seen him do? Where has he already shown himself good, trustworthy, faithful, right? How have I seen him move already on my behalf, right? How have I seen him fight for me before, right? So you guys, it's so crazy, but oftentimes when we're in that present circumstance and we're just right here, all we can see is the problem. All we can see is the obstacle, and we don't see any way out, and we forget what's already been done for us and teed up for us, you guys. So remember the past history, right? That past faithfulness and goodness and trustworthiness of the one who brought you here and called you here. So you guys, remember that past faithfulness, right? We also need to remember in the present that he is present, right? So presence, his presence in our present. He is always here. That is a promise, like, I will be with you, right? I go before you. Never am I going to leave you. Like, who's in the pit with you? Like, even in the darkest place, right? The highest of high, the lowest of low. You guys, we are not ever in the battle by ourselves. And I will tell you another thing that I often find helpful to remember is a little bit of perspective, right? I'll be honest, I was having a little bit of a pity party this morning. I had a rough night. I didn't sleep well. And so, I just kind of woke up already which is so ridiculous. And I just needed to have a little two 10-minute pity party, but I needed some perspective. I needed to think about, really, is this that bad? What I am sitting in right now, is this that bad? Because there are others, right, who are in a much different position, who would love to have my little issue, right? So his presence and perspective are what really keep us focused in the right now, right? In the circumstance where we are. And then you guys, the other thing that really holds as an anchor towards that remembering is the future promise. So we've got the past faithfulness, his present presence, and we've got his future promise to hold to. And you guys, I don't know what specific promises that you feel like you've been given, that you've been shown. I know there are so many that apply to all of us, but there are some that are so specific and so perfectly breathed for you in this season. But you guys, some of my favorite ones, right? Like, I have plans to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. You will be a nation of nations. I will give you every place you set your foot. By faith, Sarah, when she was past age, received because she believed, right? My yoke is easy, my burden is light. You guys, there are so many promises that you have, right? And so when we find ourselves in the pit because we forgot, right? Our quickest way out is to remember. It's to remember, you guys, 70,000 thoughts a day turned towards truth can not only fling us up out of the pit, but it can fling us into this bold, brave, courageous sort of living. I will tell you guys something that has stuck with me for years and years and years. Some of you may know who Keith Koepner is. If you don't, he's this guy in Oklahoma, incredible mentor, coach, just a beautiful human being. But I remember watching this interview that he did with Cecilia Stoll. And, he said, Cecilia, you've been in 20-something years in Arbonne. You're the #1 income earner. You're this, you're that. You've had this award and this award. And your organization's, a gazillion big. Like, what is your biggest victory in Arbonne? What's your biggest accolade, your biggest win? And you guys, she didn't take a breath. And she looked at him and she said, my biggest victory was every time I climbed out of the pit. It's every time I climbed out of the pit. was her biggest win, you guys. Because you know what she said? She said, because you know what? I was better every time. Every time I climbed out of the pit, I was a better sponsor. I was a better friend. I was a better wife. I was a better mom, right? I was better every time I climbed out of the pit. You guys, it is victorious to climb out of your pit. And yeah, every time you do, we get stronger and we get stronger and we get better. So you guys, I just want to ask you, what does your mental diet consist of, right? What's your mental diet consist of? Because we spend a lot of time, most of us do in our business, teaching people how to do a physical detox. But yo, when's the last time we did a mental detox, right? Like Rita said, we got some stinking thinking, you know? I mean, it's the default, you guys. Don't feel bad about it. Don't shame yourself over it. It's just the default, right? We don't land on the positive, right? But my favorite book says, as a man thinks in his heart, so he is. So our thoughts really do shape who we are and the direction that we're going. And so we're really called to take every thought captive and make it obey, right? Make it obey truth. And so you guys, to take something captive means to take hold, right? To hold, to confine. And I don't know if you guys can get a good sense of that word. I mean, like you put something in confinement, right? You've got that thing kind of on lockdown and it is out of the way and we are really taking a hard look at it. And you guys, to take captive, to do that requires us to slow down. And I'll be really honest, like this is something that I struggled with for a long time and I still do on many days, right? But I do have a better awareness of it now. And so we're making progress. But you guys, to take things captive, our thoughts captive, requires us to slow down. It requires us to hit pause on our life long enough to even recognize our thoughts, you guys. Because we cannot reconcile what we do not recognize. So we've got to really like handcuff and lock down some of our thoughts. You guys think about like prisoners, right? When somebody gets arrested and they bring them in, right, to the station, like picture that. And you know, that little cold room with the window where you know somebody's watching from the other side and you got a cop in there and they're like interrogating them and questioning them. And the investigators, you know what they're doing? They're trying to see, does this story line up with truth? That's what they're doing, right? Is what's about to come out of this mouth a lie? Or is it truth? And so you guys, that's kind of what we got to do. We got to take hold. We have got to lock down these thoughts and wrestle with them if we must until we can make them obey truth, right? So you guys, I really want to encourage you to get a little journal, right? Get a little journal and start jotting down your thoughts, right? Which means, right? It means slowing down. It means pausing. It means catching like, oh, what? Wait, what? Like, what did you just tell yourself? Or where did this feeling come from? I'll be honest, you guys. Sometimes I can catch my feelings before I can catch my thoughts. So keep that in mind. It might be sometimes where you just know something feels off in you. You're operating from something weird. It's a feeling you don't like. Oftentimes I can take that feeling and track it back and go, oh, well, here's what happened. Or someone said this, right? It made me feel this way. So now I've been telling myself XYZ, right? So we got to take those thoughts captive. And you guys, jot them down. Jot them down. Like, oh, and sometimes, listen, just jotting them down can bring light to those things. But jot them down. And then you guys check the voice, the tone, the feeling of that thought. And ask yourself, like, look at this thing, right? I'm telling myself I suck because blah, 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 right? Like, who told you that? Who told you that, right? You guys, does the voice calm, comfort, convict, encourage, enlighten, lead, reassure, and still you? Is that what the voice does? Or does the voice with that thought obsess, just cause you to worry? Does it condemn you, discourage you, confuse you, push you, frighten you, rush you? Two different voices, right, y'all? You guys, if you find that once you write that down and you identify who told you that, if you find that you've been duped, because we all get duped by the author of lies, right? You guys replace that thing with truth and just preach it back over yourself, right? So you guys, who and what we let speak over us and into us really shapes who we are. So you guys, my favorite book says that we've got to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. Transformation is one of my favorite things on the planet. Always has been, whether that's in a human being or a home or a plant, right? Nature, the seasons, the transforming, you guys, comes in us by the renewing of our minds, right? By the taking the thoughts captive and making them truth, making them obey truth. So you guys, here's what I do know, is that we all want the public praise, right? We all want the big wins that we see in Arvine, that we see get recognized and celebrated. But you guys, private victories always precede public praise. Private victories always precede public praise. And we have to win small in order to win big. We got to win in the little things before we can win in the big things. And you guys, so many of our personal victories are going to be won in the secret place, right? So you guys, your homework for this week, it's always 3-part. As I know you guys will remember, we focused on grow me, grow my personal business, and then grow my team. And so your homework for grow me, right? This personal growth component of our homework is that I want you to keep a little Be Transformed journal, right? And I sent out some little tiny ones yesterday, but just find you something small, little note cards. That's just little index cards, just a tiny little journal that you can throw in your purse. Just keep it handy, because at 700,000 or 70,000 thoughts a day, we got a lot of opportunity to jot some things down, right? So you guys, keep a little Be Transformed journal this week, and I jot those thoughts down. Just identify the lies that you've been telling yourself, right? Because remember, we cannot reconcile what we don't recognize. So identify the lies you've been telling yourself this week and find and replace them with truth and with promise. Okay? So you guys, rewrite. This is where your affirmations come in, right? Take the lie, recognize that it's a lie, and then rewrite it in present truth form, right? Rewrite it in present truth form and start plastering those things everywhere. You guys, a funny story. When I was new in my business, I was a few months in, we were on our march to Region, and I literally had these. This was some of my original set of affirmations. I still remember this font. This is Haggard. It still has that old piece of tape on it. Y'all, that's like 11 years old. And I had one, we had a tall like floor lamp sitting right by the bottom of our staircase at our living room. And my husband and I hosted a small group, and we had this funny guy friend, and he was always just picking on me about something. But he had rounded that corner, and I had one right on the lamppost at like eye level, and it said, I am a leader. Y'all, and he gave me the biggest grief, and it was so funny, and that's what that reminded me of today when I found that. But you guys, tell yourself how to think, right? That's what affirmations are. Speak truth over yourself. Encourage yourself. You guys, something I want you to do as you kind of spend time in that this week, writing down, identifying those lies, and then replacing them with truth. I want you to get really brave and vulnerable, and I want you to share with your upline VP, the biggest lie I'm telling myself is blank. Okay? So I want you to share that. You guys, so grow your personal business. So grow in my business this week. Your homework. You guys, I don't know how many of you have read the book, The Slight Edge, but in that he says something so powerful, and it's so true for so much of our business. He said that it's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And so many things in our business are that way, right? They're easy to do, but they're also easy not to do. And so a lot of times we don't, right? So you guys, in the area of minding our mind, we've got to get to a place where, y'all, it's time to shift from knowing to doing. right? We have got to move into the doing realm. We have got to start renewing our mind. And a lot of that will often feel like detox, to be honest. But you guys, here's the deal. And for those of you that were in Arizona with us last weekend, Kara Chapman, bless her, had such a powerful word. And one of my biggest takeaways from the whole weekend was when she said that 40% of our actions are habits. 40% of our actions are habits that we're not even on a daily basis. And we're not even actively making decisions about them. Like, we're just doing them. 40% of our day is just happening under autopilot, right? Under default mode. And so I really have spent some time sitting in that, you guys, because what I know is that we are never stationary in life or business. We are always moving forward, or we are always moving backwards. It's design or default, right? A life of design or default. And so you guys, when it comes to building your personal business, what I want you to do for your homework this week is to identify one habit that's not serving you, right? One habit that's moving you backwards, unfortunately, right? You've got, pick a habit. You may have more than one. I have more than one, but just pick one that's not moving you towards your goals, right? Not moving you towards that future that you envision for yourself. And so you guys, I want you to stop, right? To look, identify that one habit and replace that one habit that's not serving you with one that does, right? So ask yourself this question. If I stopped doing blank and I started doing blank, my personal activity would soar, right? Okay, so identify one thing, that one habit that's not serving you, and replace it with one that you know would serve you, okay? And then lastly, on your homework, you guys, grow your team, right? So we did grow me, grow business, and now it's a grow team. And here's what I want to ask you. You guys, who in your organization has forgotten? Who in your organization has forgotten and needs a reminder? They need a reminder about who they are, about whose they are, about why they started, about what you see in them. You guys, who in your organization needs a truth teller? Who in my organization needs me to throw a rope down and go sit with them in that pit for a short minute? Don't stay in there with them, but throw it down and go sit in that pit with them for a minute and get your arms around them and speak some love, life, and truth over them. You guys, who's that person? Who's that person for you that needs a rope? You guys, be willing this week and always, maybe this will be the start of a new habit, but be willing to rumble with your people, to get eyeball to eyeball and to lift their chins, right? Like, you know how you are when you're in the pit, right? To lift their chins, to hold their gaze, and to remind them, you guys, to help them remember, so that they can return. And you guys, it's so much more than about, when I say return, that's my word for the year, by the way. And it's so much more than about returning to Arvon, but about returning to their best selves, right? Returning to the freedom and the fullness that is their birthright. So you guys, thanks for letting me hang out with you for a little bit tonight. I'm super proud of all of you in this group who continue to show up, suit up, to love and to serve big. So this week, let us mind our mind. Let us focus on catching the lies, replacing it with truth, and really just, loving well and being a truth teller for our people. So love you guys. Have a great week.